So, okay, I can continue then. So today I'd like to start with our progress since the previous meeting we had, and I will just discuss what we have delivered to Iroha well, basically it was 1st of December, the last meeting we had. And I'm going to tell you about our current iteration and briefly about the process and tools we're using, how the contributors can suggest changes or improvements in the project and our and our platform as well. I will tell you briefly about upcoming alpha release, and also there will be question and answer session. So since the Iroha development meeting 12 were delivered following features. So we have delivered nested key value storage for account data. Some people have requested this for KYC functionality. We have also changed Sonar Cube so that it reflects some of our features that are pretty big, but we cannot actually see the coverage of tests for some of the code. So I will tell you in details. And now you can install Iroha from master branch using Homebrew if you have Mac OS, so it's pretty much handy now. You can deploy the peer network using Ansible playbook. So if you have just several virtual machines or physical machines, all you need to do is just to get the access to them, and you can use Ansible playbook for deployment. And also for the role of money creator or asset creator in the system, as it was able to add some quantity to the wallet, now it also is able to, now he or she is also able to subtract some quantity of assets, so that now the money creator is able to manage any kind of asset, mutable asset in the system. We also have detach role command. So our permission model, we're liking this one, and without detach role, we were unable to downgrade some users. So you were able to, let's say, assign just a regular user role to the account, but in case you want to block an account for some malicious actions, you weren't able to, let's say, take the role back and assign him limited role or her for some period of time. What's pretty much exciting for us is that we're going to use ED library that we have rewritten from scratch using open implementations, open trusted implementations, and we also made a lot of benchmarks, and we were comparing different ones. We have selected the fastest, and we swapped the implementation of hashing of SHA-2 with SHA-3, so it's more stable and more secure. We also have implemented SVIG bindings for transaction generation, and SVIG is the library, so it allows us to link our shared or static or dynamic shared library with target languages such as Java, Python. So the idea is that we're building a client library at the moment, and we want to use it in any kind of environment, like Java, Python, a very diverse range of clients, by the way. And the last one is Get Transaction API, which allows you to just simply get transactions using their hashes. So for the nested key value storage for account data, this was, I guess, Bulat Nasrulin who implemented this. It works in the following way. So now account entity in the system as the object, let's say, in our relational representation. Now it has a key value storage, which is just basically a JSON file. And we have two sections, which is own section. Those are data which the user who has this account writes him or herself, such as in this example, the name is Tekimiya and surname is Makoto. If we want someone to report about ourselves, let's say for certification or for giving us some I don't know, reputation points, something like this. If you go to credit organization, to bank, basically, if they want to assign you some rating, you can grant them data to write into your account. So now, if you can see here, the idea is that admin of Sramitsu may certificate the name using the hashed representation of the data. And this is done for the purpose of our platform to be a notary, so that when someone will receive this key value storage, they will be able to check the validity of the data reported by the user if they are trusting, let's say, admin at Suramitsu. In the future, I guess we will extend this with more convenient API than just returning the whole JSON file. So this can be executed for our own account or for another one, if this account has granted permissions to write in the storage of the user. For SonarQube, this extract of the web page is just a screenshot showing the different projects that we have. It was extended with the reports about the coverage for the feature branches. We call them trunks. Some of our bigger, I would say, branches, they have the prefix trunk, and they have sub-branches. So our biggest ones at the moment are multi-signature trunk, and it's pretty much finished at the moment, by the way. So the last thing that remains is the integration test, just to check the whole pipeline once again. And for a shared model, this is what we are building for like 2.5 months, probably. So this is our client library, and we're trying to increase the coverage of the code we have written for it. And also, here you can see the ED library, which is our cryptography library we used, and the coverage is pretty much okay. We're trying, by the way, to hit at least 70% in the code of shared model and MST. And in the future, we want to set even higher quality metrics related to coverage, like 80%. For Ansible, we're able to use Ansible Playbook to set up a peer network for arbitrary number of nodes. And it's already in master branch, so you can just refer to this guide on the slide. And I guess this is the screenshot with the guide, so it has pictures and pretty much explanatory description. You can check this out and try to deploy Iroha on several nodes and play around with it. So for subtract asset quantity, I guess Mizuki has implemented this, reopening the old pull request without much description. So the idea is that we are now able to subtract some kind of mutable asset if this person has created it or has and has permission to do that. So the idea is that we have someone who is able to create mutable assets in the system. Let's say those users will be called money creators. And they can conduct the operations of management of assets only on their accounts. And the idea of spreading the asset in the system is based on transfer of assets. So you cannot actually subtract someone's asset quantity or add to someone. You can only transfer. So for detachment of role, this is needed to provide more flexibility in governance, as Bolot says. And we are now able to detach some roles in the system. The idea is that the person who has, the account who has ability to manage roles in the system, he's now able to let's say, delete some role from the role set of the user, of account, I mean. And this is done as it was said for more flexibility and governance. I mean, to downgrade some users, we definitely need to get to delete the role like general user. Very promising one is our ED library. And now we have RFC compatible implementation with pluggable hash, and it's very promising for us to be implemented in the system, as it was overviewed by security specialists, I guess, and also it's very promising for us to show it to David, who is the security maven in Hyperledger, so that maybe whole Hyperledger community can use that, as they were searching for it on Hyperledger Hackathon in Lisbon recently. And it has pretty good description, like README describing all the implementations. It is targeted on different platforms. You can use it in ARM, you can use it in x86. It's very promising. Also, the code coverage is over 81%. Because it's using all the test cases from RFC. That's very important for security, and from this perspective, it's very promising. So just check this out: WordChamp ED 225,519. This is one of our maintainers. For SVIG, I will just show you what is the SVIG for very briefly. Yeah, so it stands for, where it was, I always forget. It was, by the way, in the name of the website. Yeah, so this is simplified wrapper and interface generator. So the idea is that we're using some of the endpoints of our shared library, and we can reuse them in target languages such as Python, Java, Camel, C#, anything. And now we can just use Iroha encryptor, let's say, or just the whole API. I lost my cursor for a second. Forgive me. Here we can just declare a builder which is able to build the transactions in the system, and crypto which is able to sign them. We generate some key pairs. We set the time of transaction generation in Unix milliseconds. We set our counter to 1, as it was the first one, and we declare the creator and signatory. And in the array of our commands, we just append the transactions which are created, like builder.tx counter, then we pass the counter, then we pass the creator account ID, the time, and then goes the command. So, for example, the first one is add peer. We set the IP address, we set the public key, and we had build. The cool thing is, if you build something wrong, which does not meet the, let's say, the invariant of this object, it will create an exception that will be processed in the target language. So we've done a great job doing those bindings, and I really hope that before Christmas we will end and release the alpha version with it, and you can play around. It's not only for Python at the moment, it's also for Java. And by the way, we have tests for all the bindings. So it's pretty much the same. It just take a look at the very end of the slide. Here you have commands add, and then you go for command creation. You just set the TX counter, and take a look at the part where it says big integer value of time. Then you add peer when you pass all the when you supplement all the arguments. You can build the command and the whole transaction. And for get transaction API, for some of the middleware, it's needed to store only hashes of transactions. So we had a request from some of our use case partners that that guys, we need to get the transactions based on our hashes. And that's what we have. You can get the transactions based on their hashes. I'm moving to the section to describe you what we're doing at the moment. So basically, some of the parts that I have described were already shown. And we have also moved forward with multi-signature account. That's the reason why we have updated some of our converters. Now we're able to process exceptions generated from client library in native language. That's what I said. And we have extended some coverage to MST, which is multi-signature. Some of our tasks are already in development. Some of our tasks for this iteration are in the backlog. I will tell you like the most exciting ones. The first one is our Iroha API documentation. So I will just briefly show you the current state, like what we have at the moment. So at the moment, some of the parts are very relevant, like the transaction description or queries. But for some parts, like build process, it has some problems at the moment, for example, with boost. So it seems like in apt-get, the boost is outdated, and also CMake. So in order to make the life easier for our developers who open the system, do not understand anything, we have rethinked our documentation at the moment, and we're going to build the like a glossary and more easier the description that would be easier for them to start with. Because we're using some terminology which is not very clear, or we convey the information in very short, not explanatory ways. So we're rethinking the documentation at the moment, and we're delivering the better one with the API. We're also improving Redis mutable storage implementation. What does it mean is that now the time to retrieve the block from the transaction will be faster, and you will be able to get everything without any hassle. Well, yeah, so basically the whole thing that remains is just implement the cryptography library, finish with our client library, and also with some of the technical depth for the features, which are like the most important. This is the remaining thing. Well, this is just the same. So it applies under my previous definition for what we have remained. This is the burn down chart at the moment we have. So we have like a roller coaster at the moment because we've been closing some of the tasks, some of them were appearing. But overall, we're doing fine, and I hope that we will end on the December of 23rd, and we will deliver the client library and Iroha API, and also we'll release the alpha version. So that's the part when I will describe briefly our process. For those who haven't heard about this, and I guess the majority haven't, we're using our definition of the process as the Iroha project software development process. It was inspired by OpenUP with some simplifications and also vModel, and maybe some Scrum approaches can be found here. So the idea is that we're having a sprint time, which is divided into 4 parts: initiation, elaboration, construction, and delivery. During initiation, we're just trying to get the current situation with the requirements and with their implementation from the stakeholders and the community, what we have in the system and what they want to see in the next iteration or in the nearest future. Then in collaboration time, we are just thinking over following things, like the architectural. Well, let me show you the requirement document that we have. Here we have like a piece of work, which is the definition for the requirement. During the second phase, when we have received the vision, like here we have the vision for the benchmarking. Iroha daemon should support benchmarking in order to give time and resource estimate. And then we collaborate with guys to decide like what we should have in our architecture. That's our architectural impact. Then we write like the scientific impact, which is what we need to research in order to deliver this vision. And the remaining part is also QA, which is the baseline for black box testing at this moment. And the remaining part is just the distribution for tasks. The problem is the Confluence is not very well integrated with Jira. So for better integration, we have here Epic link. So you can always open the Epic and see the remaining tasks for the piece of work. Let me go back to the description of the iteration. During construction planning, we're just thinking who of the contributors or maintainers are able to implement these tasks. And we're trying to conduct planning separately. Here you have 2 circles, but it can be even more. And you can give tasks to sub-teams, and people are in charge of, let's say, guiding them and performing control function of management. During delivery time, they're just basically programming, and at the very end of the sprint, they're delivering a new increment. Or, well, the whole hassle with release plan is not very well finished at the moment. We're just discussing there might be another approach, which is just to deliver some functionality and then optimize it in a couple of sprints. But we're discussing this at the moment as our definition for quality gate. As you can see, this is not a rectangle, but this is a rhombus. This is done so that initiation phase starts seamlessly for the developers, and they're continuing delivering while we're elaborating on requirements. That's our vision of the process at the moment, from planning and tracking for whole iteration. And the description of requirement is very simple. We have a piece of work, which is usually a change request for a feature or the bug fix. It is assigned to priorities and target releases. So we're also doing some release planning with piece of work. And as I have said before, we have some functional details, some vision. Then we elaborate on their environmental objectives, architectural impact, scientific one, QA, and distribute the whole thing in tasks. This is how we do it at the moment. And to manage all the issues, we're using Jira and also GitHub issues, but Jira is the primary one. And for unlocked user, this is how it is shown. But if you are logged in, you can open more and you can use some reports. You can take a look at the releases that we have. So we're also trying to use Jira now in a more efficient way. So you can check this out. I hope you will like the way we're working. So it can be clear for you what we're delivering in the current iteration. Sorry about that. It's been a lot I've been discussing. So maybe you have some questions to sections that I have described, and we can move forward to more.
Hey, Nikolai, it's excellent. I mean, what we have gone through, and where we have reached so far, and where we are planning to, reach in the near future. It's excellent. I mean, the way we have, matured over a period of time. It's fantastic, and I would wish you all the best and the team. It's an excellent effort. It's been. I mean, even Makoto and everyone else there, Bogdan and everyone. You guys have done an excellent, fantastic contribution to Iroha, and it's really things like dreams come true, right? So it's really good to see things are being being assembled and researched and developed the way we had planned probably a year back. I'm really glad to see things unveil this way. Great job, guys.
Thank you. It's not a lot of such words we can hear from people. It's actually more like complaints, because Iroha is in the state when it's not very mature. However, we're trying to do all the best, and it's very relieving. It's very we're really happy to hear something like this, because we've been working hard and we're trying to hit towards the community, and we're really looking forward in the next year to attract more people with our, let's say, engineering approaches and with our code and vision, and we really want to build the community, which is helpful.
Yes. Yeah. We back in India here in Mumbai. We are trying to assemble a team who can start focusing on Iroha and start aligning with your terminologies and your development life cycle. So we'll be glad to be a part of this, and I'm really glad to have seen the development so far. I'm promising myself that this will really go far, as we had envisaged this a year back.
Thank you. It's very it's very helpful for us to hear that someone will contribute on the regular basis, and I would like to have more of this conversation. Maybe after the presentation, you can write in the Iroha Open Development chat, and we can discuss this. I really want to put all the conversations on the public level.
Right.
Yeah, if you let me, I will continue and tell you more about what we have. And if someone has any questions, just interrupt me at any second. I will continue.
Oh, sorry. Just a question before. Last week I was participating in the hackathon here in Brazil, and we developed a solution based in the blockchain using Fabric at most to work in the health data. And at least Fabric has a lot of good resources too. I mean, they are a little bit in the front, and they have some examples. And this is very good for we start to work in something and learning with get the hands dirty, you know. So I'd like to know if you guys are planning some examples and some case uses just to start to work in something from a real project.
Yeah, hi Eduardo. I'm just wondering what's the time zone you're in. It's like maybe a night, right, at the moment?
Yeah, I am pushing myself, almost sleepy, but it was.
I'm really sorry. I wanted to make this more interesting presentation than it was before.
No problem. Okay. I think that it's very interesting, and I like to I hear you guys and say that it's a very interesting project. I am eager to know more about it. So I push myself to not get sleepy so fast.
Okay, so the answer is of course yes, and this is like the highest priority. And the bottleneck, like the only thing that remains before we can start with some examples that could be used for developers, like ready-to-go solution. I'm really fascinated by the way what Fabric and what So tools they are doing for examples. They're very explanatory, and anyone can just go to their repository and take a look. That's very promising. We want to do even better. We want to build like ready-to-go solution based on our client library. So the only thing that remains is just to finish with this client library on Java and Python, which is nearly finished. Guys, you can check the pull requests that are opened at the moment. We're just testing the remaining parts, and the alpha version will be with the early stage of the client libraries. And in the future, we will build the examples of use for, I guess, for all of the applications that, use cases that Hyperledger is researching. So they're also working on white paper that describes different use cases. And we want to follow each use case, I guess, and build something for it, like a very simple use case applications. We also want to apply to more hackfests. And before, we wanted to show some of the applications of our client library in Hyperledger hackathon in Lisbon, but we weren't able to finish prior to the date. So yeah, we will be delivering such examples in the nearest future as we will finish client SDK.
There was one more query. We are trying to experiment with various DLT platforms like Corda and Fabric for assembling use cases for fintech line of business. So where we are looking at use cases like trade finance or supplier finance. And in one of these use cases, what we see is the role of a validator or a validating tier keeps on changing based on the transactional stage. So, for example, if to give you an example, if there is an invoice, if there is for a supplier finance, there are three main actors or three main peers. One will be the guy who is generating the invoice or the transaction initiator. The other end will be the supplier, or who will be accepting that invoice, saying that I have got your goods. So he'll be kind of a buyer in this zone, in this example. And the third entity will be the financer who is financing this invoice. All right.
Yep.
So what we're seeing is there are a couple of additional entities that we are trying to bring in, like an insurance agent who will be insuring this transaction, and a legal agent who will be soliciting the transaction that is taking place between these two entities, like the supplier and the buyer. So what we see, whenever the supplier initiates a transaction for the buyer, uh, it just doesn't get go to the buyer for an acknowledgement, but it also goes to the legal, to the insurance agent, to the bank for endorsing. No, we can make a multi-sig transaction here, but then what we also see is there are multiple strategies of financing a particular invoice. So where there are multiple transactions that may be triggered from the bank or from the financer, who will be playing the role of financing that invoice, at what stage, at what percentage of that invoice needs to be financed. So what we see is we want to change the role of a validator to a participant, from a participant to a endorser, and back to validator. So it's like if a bank is if a bank is for a transaction is validator for that particular point, the next stage it might be the endorser, or it might be an initiator. So is that a possibility that we can build in, or is that a possibility that we can think of in the current context? Because that is not a possibility with Fabric for now, because it has fixed roles of validating and ordering peers, so we cannot change the roles. But is that a possibility that we can think of?
Okay, so I will try to answer answer your question very shortly. In the new response, we want to build a heterogeneous network so that it could be divided into validating peers and some of the validating peers and also the replicas. This is for heterogeneous network. Another thing that we already have in the system is role-based access control. And the roles are very flexible. So to every command, there is a permission matched, and we can assign to role a permission and build a system in that way that people have very different roles, accounts in the system. So it's very flexible. It's not as flexible as, let's say, attribute-based access control, but at the moment, role-based access control in Iroha is something that might work for your situation. You just need to adjust roles for different entities in the way that they have different permissions. And if you have a suggestion for heterogeneous peer network, which is something rather than just divisioning into validating nodes and just replicas of the blockchain, I will be really happy to see more in details, maybe in a GitHub issue. Just in a few slides, I will show, by the way, how to make the suggestion in the project. And I want to have a public discussion, at least in GitHub issues, where we can discuss something very similarly to forum that was like in 2007 approach. I hope I have answered at least partially your question.
Yeah, somewhere there is a light in the end of the tunnel is what I see. But then, yeah, definitely we can think this out, because this is where the real life scenarios, these are the expectations from the real life scenarios, what I feel. And these are the shortcomings of Fabric. as I see, I don't have this kind of role exchange that can happen in Fabric.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, let's discuss this in GitHub issues. I guess we have. I can give you more to your question with the help of our maintenance team.
Okay.
So if you let me continue, if you have any questions related to previous sections, we can discuss maybe at the end to have questions in the session. On the previous presentation, Bogdan was telling about the way how to suggest an enhancement in the system. Enhancement, what makes existing code or design more scalable, more testable, any quality attribute better in any other way. And we want to track them as issues, and just to submit them, you need to have like a title and body. That's pretty simple. And in the body, we want to include following things. We want to have like a target, which kind of system, which kind of component or anything needs to be improved, and motivation, like why. You need to describe the positive changes, you need to describe your perspective, your point of view, and the description if you have like a concept how to implement, like design a solution from the point of architecture, or like maybe you can suggest some similar approaches which we can copy or improve. This is what we want to have in suggestion of enhancements in GitHub. And recently, Bogdan has done a great job improving contributing MT. So it describes like pretty much everything you need to know about contributing to Iroha code base, and also how to suggest enhancements, how to report bugs, anything. You just need to check this out. He merged this in development branch recently. And as we're going to release alpha, this is going to be in master soon. So our upcoming alpha release. So the idea is that every new release will be the name of Iroha, starting with I. And the Izumi is the source. This is the part where we're starting the whole thing. Alpha is just the beginning for optimization of the pipeline, like benchmarking. This is why we think this is like a source for the upcoming work. And the definition of alpha release is that Iroha is ready for KYC features. Now we have accounts and domains in the system, and they have like key value storage, so it's already in master, I guess. The cryptography library is checked against RFC and is using SHA-3. This is what we've been working, and we have finished recently. The library is available to be reused by clients applications on Java and Python. And I guess the pings are already done. And the client library is able to form transactions, queries, and get their status for transactions. And it's available for at least Java and Python, and many more are coming. The permission model is already improved with domain-specific permissions. So now you have like domain auditors, domain money creators and stuff. And also you can detach some users role. Asset naming is checked against some stateless validation rules, like maybe regular expressions or some other stuff. And the documentation in API website is consistent with code base. This is what we're working at the moment. And I guess not so much things are remaining to release the alpha version. And following the Hyperledger alpha release definition, Iroha is pretty much feature complete for all the features which were committed to the production release. So we have working peer network, consensus, synchronization of peers. We have like all the essential features for the platform implemented. It's already it was already said that we can use Ansible playbook, and before we had Docker Swarm environment for deployments of the networks. So it's already proven that proof of concept level deployments are possible. But performance can be characterized in a predictable way. It was said like Iroha is able to perform thousands of transactions in seconds. And we have some early benchmarks, but we really don't want to say something very concrete at the moment, because it might create different expectations from what can be at the very end, when we will finish some of, let's say, biggest bottlenecks in the architectural pipeline. So at the moment, we're able to process at least 3,000 transactions per second, which is not including stateful validation, I guess. This is promising, and we need to improve this from the perspective of stateful validation at the moment. In the future, the alpha release, of course, is just the start for the improvements, so it will be improved a lot. Going to the APIs, so the APIs are documented on the website I have shown you recently with the Hyperledger API, Hyperledger Iroha API. Some first attempts at end-user documentation are already made. Our colleagues in Japan are hardly working at the moment on documentation related to deployment, some of the diagrams, and I guess this is also just a first attempt, and it will be improved a lot. Developer documentation is advanced at the moment, and hopefully no highest priority features are at the moment. So I guess we're meeting the definition for Hyperledger Alpha, and we're going to release before Christmas. So that's it for the presentation. I hope we will see Alpha version very soon, maybe at the start of the following week. So let's stay tuned and just follow the progress and update of the team, and also the repository. I guess we will be publishing our release at GitHub releases page. So thank you for attending. I guess the presentation was quite long, and some people have already like 2 a.m. and this is very helpful for us to connect to the community and to listen to you more. So if you have any questions, we can definitely discuss them, and hopefully I can give you some answers.
Hey, where can we see the slides that you have shared right now? Where can we access those slides? Are they available?
I will upload this in a second to the, let's say, yeah.
Oh, wow.
I will upload them to Telegram and Rocket Chat, I guess. Let's start with Rocket Chat, and while I'm doing this, just if you have questions.
Oh, wow.
It's not like keynote. Okay.
I remember that we discussed it in the Telegram. I think a few weeks ago that we're not sure what is to be the main platform communication. Maybe Rocket Chat or Telegram. I don't know. So I'd like to know, because sometimes you want to talk to the people when you have a place that people can answer or more available. Would be cool. Maybe I'm not sure if it's Telegram or Rocket Chat, but how do you guys are planning to focus in your one platform for chat? What's the planning for that?
To be honest, that's the hard question. However, it's very like primitive just to choose one single chat. From Hyperledger point of view, it's very crucial for us to use one platform, and we're agreeing. Like Rocket Chat is great, but it lacks some integration. Let's say advantages or possibilities, because they are using their own authorization mechanism, which is based on Linux Foundation identity. And for something that we're already used to have, this is not very handy. I'm struggling to answer, because Telegram is what the whole team is using at the moment. They're used to it, and all the Telegram discussions then can be answered in a seconds. For Rocket Chat, at the moment, no one is using it except me and maybe a couple of people in the team. But we want to use Rocket Chat as Hyperledger is advising. However, we also have Gitter. And Gitter is very handy for developers, because it's like made from developers to developers. So hopefully in the future we're all going to use Rocket Chat, as more people related to Hyperledger discussion are appearing in this environment. It's not so many people which the possibility to meet newcomers to the community in Rocket Chat is quite higher than in Telegram, because Telegram is like a very closed environment at the moment, and I guess not like the broad range of people is informed about Telegram chat. Do you have maybe any suggestions or ideas how can we use it? Because previously we've been trying to build a bridge between all of these, and we have failed because of Hyperledger Linux Foundation, authorization mechanism in Rocket Chat.
No, I don't think so. I maybe Rocket Chat can be the best choice or not. I don't know.
Yeah, it's better than Slack, because Slack worked it was very slow. When you have a lot of chats or when you have a lot of Slack identities, it opens up in like 20 seconds maybe, or even longer on my Mac. So it's quite a long time. And Rocket Chat is quite better in this sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. I agree.
For now, we're just copying all the contents and trying to answer all the questions in this very diverse tools like Gitter, Rocket Chat, and Telegram.
Another question is, before, are you saying that there's a benchmarking running now in the platform? Is that?
You mean like the requirement for it?
No. I'm thinking you are running some benchmarks that you managed to spawn 1,000 transactions. Do we have access to the results of these benchmarks?
Yeah, I guess we can publish them, and we have some logs already with these early benchmarks.
Also, I'd like to know about the configurations to make these benchmarks, or maybe testing the benchmarks better, like block size, or maybe try to get the most transactions per second.
Yeah, it's crucial, because depending on the configuration, of course, you can have different results. From what I remember, it was single node, and we have not been using some transport level. So it was like integration test with some of the pipeline stages. Some of the pipeline stages were using benchmarking, let's say, markers, and we've been able to analyze the amount of time which is devoted to certain pipeline stage. And as for configuration of block, I don't remember the exact figure, but it was maybe like 10,000 transactions in a block. I'm not sure. Okay, I guess I will publish these early ones, and yeah.
Nice. I think another thing that is important in the community, in the software development that are growing, it's to kind of grooming some pieces that newcomers can start to work, like translations or small pieces like fixing typos in the platform, to start to dive in the code and you know more about how the code works. Like if you see something that's very easy, as you a developer that works in Iroha, you can start like, hey, this is very, very, very easy, but for a newcomer, it's a good training stuff,
Yeah, I think I understand what you're saying. I mean, you want to have more like first, where are these? Like good first issues. Yeah, this is what I want to see in the project as well. So at the moment, I guess we're having some problems with managing the community because it's a lot of work, and we need to decide on internal structure for our community management. So sometimes it happens that we have some good first issues, but I guess we should make it like regular work. We should at least schedule 20 minutes each week on decisioning how to what are the good first issue in this iteration. Yeah, we're definitely lacking this kind of work at the moment.
Oh, okay, my bad. I think I didn't see before.
Yeah, because they are pretty old, and I guess we need to improve in this direction. And some of the good first issues, well, they are still relevant. Anyone can try them, contributing to these good first issues. But I think we have more relevant work at the moment, and we need to rethink the approach that we have with community management.
For sure. Thanks.
By the way, you can also use Zoom chat feature if you want to ask some question.
Nikolai, any updates on the integrating transactions between Hyperledger, Fabric, and Iroha? Are we having any developments on those lines planned?
That's a good question though, because I'm not sure what's the progress of the team that currently works with Interledger, and I need to check this out. I'm so sorry about that. And
yeah, it's okay.
And I guess we have some ideas. Like currently, we want to have some two-way back with like gateways with some blockchains that are already applicable. I mean, already on the market, like Bitcoin and Ethereum tokens. We want to build the gateway between these systems in the future. However, we're also considering Polkadot approach, and Andrei is one of our maintainers. They have been meeting the team in Germany, and they have been discussing the roadmap, how to integrate Iroha in Polkadot. If you have heard about Polkadot, this is the project to integrate different diverse chains in one big relay chain. And the guys want us to build a bridge between our blockchain platform and the relay chain. And in this system, everyone can exchange different transactions. I mean, transactions from different platforms. But I'm not sure of the status for this work. Let's discuss this in chat and ask Andrei what is the progress together.
Yeah, sure. Thanks.
Yeah, I'll just wait for a minute for more questions, and I guess we can finish if no one will ask anything.
I just a question, if possible. I'm eager to know about the plans about smart contracts and chain codes, and how this can work, and how it's supposed to work in the future. And there's a planning for this.
The second thing was chain code, and the first one was, I misheard that.
Yeah. I was asking about the planning for the chain code in the platform.
Okay. Yeah. So for 0.95, we're not going to deliver any chain code functionality. And the situation is pretty much the same. It's not like much to say about the progress for the chain code. We have different options. We can integrate an existing platform like Hyperledger Borrow. And actually, guys had a chat during Hyperledger Hackfest in Lisbon. But in our opinion, Ethereum is having a lot of problems with software engineering and the approach that they're using for creation of smart contracts, this is definitely not what enterprise wants. And the whole concept, the idea of the language that we are going to use and the features is still in the development. And also we have different possibilities. Like we have guys who are working on the relational approach for smart contracts, and we want them to integrate with our platform maybe in future, so that in Iroha there could possibly be such system for smart contracts that you can use quite a big amount of data, and the analytics over the big data can be done in seconds with this with the technology of sparse storing of, well, their approach is pretty much innovative, and the thing is, this is also in development. I guess we will focus right now on alpha, delivering like operational task for us. And for more strategic questions, this is what we need to decide in January. Like this is the start of the year, and maybe the start of a new path for us, as we are going to have alpha release and the platform with client libraries. We need to focus more on strategy and deliver like a clear plan for releases and for chain code, for all the crucial features in the future. And this work will be done, I guess, in January.
Okay, nice. Thank you.
Okay, I guess we can finish the our Iroha development meeting today. And it's been a great pleasure. You had 1 hour with me listening to all of the update. It's 9 a.m. here, but in some of the places it's not. I guess maybe in the future we can decide on maybe 2 separate meetings, or voting on what time is more suitable for all the people in the community. But it's been a great pleasure that some of you joined even at the deep night. So thanks everyone. It's been a long time for us together, and I hope that our community will be even more in the upcoming year. And we really want to hit toward the Izumi release, which contains the client library and will be the beginning of big work for optimization and building a sustainable enterprise-ready solution. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Nikolai.
Yeah, thank you. Have a nice day or night. And
it's a day in India right now. It's well afternoon.
Oh, that's nice.
So you have a good day ahead too. Thank you.
Thank you, and see you, I guess, next year.